Good day to all of you students, and welcome to this session which is on tackling the MUET reading paper. I hope that all of you are doing well and good and are in the pink of health. As we all know, reading is not an easy paper because it carries the most marks, and it's not easy to score because the length of texts are quite long and the level of vocabulary that is used in those texts are sometimes quite difficult to understand, making it not easy for us to answer the questions, which may also be tricky as well. But not to worry, with me, in this session, we'll be taking a look at some sample questions and some tips on how to answer those questions so that you'll be able to tackle and to be able to answer the questions well and score in this reading paper. In this session, we are also not alone. I have with me some live chat moderators who will be able to answer any questions that you may have throughout this whole presentation. They are Miss Fazlana Mat Zain, Miss Norehan Ahmad, Miss Madeline Liu, and Miss Iziani Mista. These live chat moderators, together with me, Miss Oh Chan Mei, are from the English Language Unit of College Matrikulasi Negeri Sembilan. So if you have any questions at all throughout my presentation, maybe something that you didn't understand as I was presenting, or perhaps any questions with regards to reading at all, especially the section on true, false, not stated, maybe there's something that you are still not sure, please do feel free to ask in the live chat section on my left or in the comment section below if you want to leave your questions permanent. We will try our best to get back to you as much as we can. Of course, don't ask questions like whether we are married or can you bring us out for dinner. Of course, I think all my moderators and I, we would definitely love a free meal. But in this COVID-19 situation, I think it's best if we don't dine out. And you also have to bring our husband and children along if we are to dine out. So think twice before asking us. Okay, let me begin by pointing out to you that we do reading everywhere, whether you actively realize it or not. Take for example, when you're at the supermarket and you need to buy a bottle of shampoo. What do you need to do? You definitely need to read the labels on the shampoo bottles in order to find out what kind of shampoo you want, whether it's for anti-dandruff or for anti-hair fall or for smooth and silky and things like that. Or if let's say you're craving for some potato chips, you definitely need to read what kind of flavor you want to buy. Or let's say, for example, these 3 biscuits over here. You have nutty chocolate and you have also dark chocolate. Which of the 2 do you want? You definitely have to read, right? And then finally on your phones as well, we do a lot of reading on our phones every day. The title of the apps in order to find out what app to go into. Okay, all these things here have something in common, which are actually the keywords. What you're doing is that you're reading the keywords on all these products and all the labels, and then you're taking these keywords and processing the keywords in order to understand it. So that's what reading is all about actually. You read a text and you pick up certain keywords, and from there you comprehend and understand that text. Very simple, all right? So we're going to do a little exercise, a warming up exercise right now. I'm just going to show you a very simple sentence. Read the sentence, and then actually you won't realize it, but your brain is actually picking up the keywords from the sentence in order to help you to comprehend. And that will be very easy because it's only one sentence. Let us try, okay? Okay, one day, Jimmy sat down in his room and wrote this letter, which he mailed to one of his old friends in St. Louis. Okay, very simple, isn't it? He sat down in his room, wrote the letter, and mailed it to one of his friends. Okay, so I'm not underlining here at the moment, all right? But I think your brain is picking up some keywords here. Okay, let's look at this. What was Jimmy doing? Is he sitting in his room? Okay, yes. So from here, you know that yes, he's sitting in his room. That was what you read earlier. Was he writing a letter to his friend? Yes. Hopefully, you still remember what you read because that was what we saw, isn't it? We just saw it. And then mailing a letter to his friend. Was he mailing a letter to his friend? Yeah, something like that. He was going to mail a letter to his friend, isn't it? But then we're not sure. Let us just go back to the sentence again, which he mailed to one of his friends. Okay, so he sat down in his room and wrote this letter which he mailed. The question says, what is he doing? So what's he doing at the moment? All right, so he didn't actually mail the letter to his friend yet. It was something which he was going to mail later on. So C is probably not the answer. Okay, not yet the answer anyway. All right. So was he writing a letter to his friend? Yes. Was he sitting in the room? Yes. So now you're between A and B. Oh no. So what was he actually doing? He was sitting in his room. He was also writing a letter to his friend, right? Yes, he's sitting. He was also writing. But you don't have both these answers together in one option. So you have to choose either or. So in this is since this is the case, you choose which one looks more detailed to you or which one looks more wrong to you lah. All right. I know your teachers will always ask you to choose the best answer, but in my opinion, and also backed up by research, the best option is actually to choose which one looks more wrong to you first, and then the one that is left is the correct answer. What I mean is that you compare when you're in a dilemma between two answers, right? You compare which one looks more wrong. Sitting in the room looks more wrong, or writing a letter looks more wrong. Here we know that sitting in the room is correct, writing a letter is correct, but sitting in the room is not the only thing that he is doing. He was also writing a letter. If he's sitting in the room, he could be doing other things as well. So this option is not enough, not specific enough. Therefore, actually this answer is a bit more wrong compared to this. So I'm going to go for answer B. All right? Because this one is a bit more wrong compared to this. In your mind, you have to change your mindset. Don't tell yourself which one looks more right. Okay, if which one looks more right, both is going to look right to you. But you got to ask yourself which one looks more wrong actually. Then it's easier for you to choose the answer. So that is the tip. The first tip that I'm giving to you right now. Okay? All right. This question, I would consider it very easy. Why? Because you're only looking at one sentence. What if we actually look at the paragraph level? Then it's going to be more difficult. Because what I'm actually trying to tell you is that when at each question you got to look at that specific sentence that has the answer. You cannot look at the whole paragraph and guess the answer because it's going to make it very difficult. So when you go through the text later on, look at one question, look at one section. Look at one question, look at one section. Then it'll be easier. And the section is just maybe 1 or 2 words. That's all. All right, let me give you another question first. What did Jimmy do with the letter that was written by him? This is very easy. This is very straightforward. Did he keep it in his room? No. Inside the sentence, it doesn't say he didn't keep it in his room. Did he give it to his friend? Yeah, he gave it to his friend. But then you have this other option here. Posted it to his friend. Okay, inside the text, we know that it says he mailed it to his friend, isn't it? So mail is the same as posted. So you know that between these two answers, this is a better answer. All right, mail. Gave it seems wrong because gave could be also posted, but it could also mean just giving straight away. Whereas you have this better answer here, which is mail. So here in this case, gave looks more wrong. So I'm going to go with C. Okay, if you notice here, they're not going to make things easy for you. Inside the text, it says mail, but inside the question, it says posted. So usually, they will give you a different word when testing you. They will not give you the exact same word because this is part of testing your vocabulary. But then, if let's say they give you the same word, then you got to be careful because sometimes it may be a trap. They may give you the same word, which makes you believe that it could be the right answer, the exact matching word, but actually it's not. Okay. Now, before we continue, there are just a few things that I would like to highlight to you in order for you to be able to approach a text better. Okay, the first thing is to always read the questions first before you begin. All right, when you're sitting for any exam, what do? Let's say you're sitting for your maths paper or for your science paper. What you do is you always try some past year questions before you actually go for the exam, isn't it? So the similar concept applies. Before you actually attempt a text, read through the questions first. So the whole idea is not for you to actually understand the question and memorize the question. No. Actually, the whole idea is so that you can have an idea of what the text is going to ask you, a little bit of background, so that it's easier for you to understand the text. Otherwise, you'll be reading the text just blankly, and then you don't even know where to focus on and things like that. But if you quickly scan through the questions first, then you'll be able to see, oh, okay, so this text is about something, it's related to this question and something like that. And just scan through very quickly. It's not important for you to memorize or to really know what the question is saying. All right, so read the questions, scan quickly. While you're reading the questions, you identify and underline maybe one keyword or two keywords in the question. That's all. All right. And then moving on to the next tip, when you move to the paragraphs or the text to read, use a pen to help you to read. This will be able to help you to read faster, and it helps your eye to focus on the words as well. But again, I just want to remind you to read fast. Just read. You don't need to exactly understand every single thing you read. You just read. And then, of course, while you're reading, you identify and underline at least one keyword that you understand. Okay, ask yourself this question. What do you think is the main message of the paragraph? Usually the main message will appear in the first line of the paragraph, which is the topic sentence of the paragraph. So that topic sentence will be able to help you to understand, oh, okay, what this whole paragraph is talking about, and that's enough. All right, you don't have to worry about any words that you don't understand or any idea or the specific details. You don't have to worry about that. You only worry about it if the question asks you later. Then you will have to read in specific detail. Otherwise, if the question does not ask you later on, then you don't have to. And at this juncture, if you have forgotten what the questions have asked you, it doesn't matter already, because the main priority of that question is to help you to know what the text is about. Then that's all. All right. Then you go to the text, then you read, you underline at least one keyword of the passage, and there's no right or wrong answer. It is based on what you understand. Okay. All right. So let us begin. We will read the question first. We don't know what the text is about yet because I haven't shown you. And this is going to be a continuation of the story from what you read earlier about Jimmy's letter to his friend. Okay. So the question says here, which of the following is true? All right. So you want to find out what is true here. Okay. A box of tools was unavailable. Okay. Something, box of tools. Friend will meet him at Sullivan's place. Glad to give his friend the box of tools. Okay, so something about some box of tools. Okay, another question. So just an example from the letter. We know that Jimmy is okay. Something about being in love. Something about being changed. Something about the past. Being afraid of it. Something about being ambitious. Something about financially successful. Okay, never mind. You don't have to worry about the question. You just want to know. Okay, it's just something about this and that. All right, now let's move to the text. So this is his letter to his friend. Okay, dear old friend. And remember, while we're reading, we're supposed to underline the words of the keywords that mean a lot to you. So dear old friend, I want you to meet me at Sullivan's place next week at 9 o'clock. Okay, so from here we know there's something important about meeting. Okay, I want to give you my box of tools. Okay, so just now something was mentioned about some box of tools. So you can underline. I know you'll be glad to have them. You couldn't buy them for $1,000. Okay, all right, must be very expensive. Okay, cannot buy them for $1,000. Okay, so over here, maybe the main idea of this paragraph is something about wanting his friend to meet him. Then you can circle. All right, let's look at the next one. I finished with the old business a year ago. I have a nice shop. Okay, he finished old business and now maybe he has a nice shop. I'm living a better life and I'm going to marry the best girl on earth 2 weeks from now. Wow. Okay, it's the only life, Billy, an honest one. I wouldn't ever again touch another man's money, even for $1 million. Okay, all right, so he's telling the friend that he's going to marry a girl. So I think maybe this is quite important here. So he's going to marry a friend. He's living a better life now. Okay, something like maybe this is the main idea of the paragraph. Again, your answer and my answer may be different. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's what we understand. And then after I get married, I'm going to West. So he's going to go to the west, where I'll never see anyone who knew me in my old life. So he doesn't want to see anyone ever again who is from his old life. I tell you, Billy, she's an angel. She believes in me, and I wouldn't do another crooked thing for the whole world. Be sure to be at Sully's, for I must see you. Okay, so from here we know that this girl must be very important, and he wouldn't do another bad thing anymore lah. Okay, crooked thing here means another bad thing. Okay, all right. So you're done reading the text. Then what do you do next? Oh wait, haven't finished. Okay, your old friend Jimmy. Okay, all right. So this is a very old story from 1903. Okay. So after reading, go back and look at the questions again, of course. And then what do? After you look at the question, this is the third tip. Search for the idea of the keyword in the text. You use the scanning method, and then you underline where you think the idea is. So you look at the question, and then you find the idea of the question in the text. Okay, what do I mean by this? Okay, let's try, okay? All right, so this is the question, going back to the question just now. So which of the following is true? The box of tools was invaluable. Oh dear, maybe you don't know the meaning of invaluable, all right? Okay, basically this is a question asking you about vocabulary, whether you know whether this meaning or not. So invaluable here means very, very valuable, okay? You know the word in here is something that is positive, all right? If it's unvaluable, then only it means it is not valuable. You know, un means not, un, all right, un. But if it's invaluable, that means it must be very valuable. Okay, so is it very valuable? Okay, so it says here, I know you'll be glad to have them. You couldn't buy them for $1,000. Okay, you cannot buy them for $1,000. Must be very valuable lah. All right, 1,000 also cannot buy. All right, so yes, maybe that's the answer. Okay, but we're not sure. Let's look at the others. His friend will meet him at Sullivan's place. His friend will meet him. Okay, will his friend meet him? Okay, so here it says here, I want you to meet me at Sullivan's place. Okay, does it tell you that his friend is definitely going to meet him? All right, it doesn't say here that his friend is going to meet him, so probably not. So here you see, this is the focus we have for option B. All right, so this is the proof. You know that it is not there, so option B cannot be the answer. So just now, this is the proof for option A. So when you read, you have to go section by section. You cannot just jump here, jump there, and understand the whole thing. It is each sentence actually gives proof to the answer. Okay, now let's look at the final one. He was glad to give his box of tools to his friend. He was glad. Okay, something about the word glad. Okay, was he glad? He says, I know you'll be glad to have them. So he says he knows that his friend will be glad to have them. So he knows his friend will be glad to have them, but is he glad to give away? Okay, again, it's not mentioned here that he is glad to give his box of tools away, but he knows that his friend will be glad to have it lah. All right, so you see here, this is actually a trap. Like earlier, this sentence here, his friend will meet him. We are not really sure whether his friend will meet him or not. It's not really mentioned. Okay, not really mentioned. So you cannot simply make assumption. And over here, he was glad. Actually, it's not that he's glad. Actually, he knows his friend will be glad to have it. All right, so there's a twist of words here. So this is also probably not the answer. So leaving you with only the answer A. Okay, so you see in the exam, sometimes in the answer structure, right, they like to trap you with just one or two tiny words. So be careful, okay? So check the keyword. Again, coming back to keywords, check the keyword and ask yourself whether it was in the text or not. So here the keyword is not there, and here it wasn't that he was glad, it was that he knows his friend will be glad. It's the friend who will be glad, not him. So A, all right? And the next question, do we know that he is deeply in love? Okay, let's see. All right, he's going to marry the best girl on earth. Okay, it's the only life. All right, okay, then you look at the next one. He said, she's an angel. She believes in me. I wouldn't do another crooked thing for the world. Oops, some mistake here. Alright, for the whole world. Alright, so do you think that he's in love? Okay, probably lah, because he says she's the best girl. He won't do another crooked thing in the whole wide world for her anymore. So maybe he's in love. Alright, is he a changed man? Let's see here. He said he's finished already with the old business. No more with the old business. Alright, and it's the only life he wouldn't ever again, even for $1 million. He's not going to touch another man's money. And here it says here, I wouldn't do another crooked thing for the whole world. So that anyone, and I'll never see anyone who knew me in my old life. So this is talking about something that's in the past, in the old. So maybe he was indeed a changed man. So maybe, okay. Is he afraid that the past might catch up with him? Let's see here. Okay, something about being afraid. He said, after I get married, I'm going to West, where I'll never see anyone who knew me in my old life. So he's planning to go to a different place where he hopes that he'll never see anyone who knew him in his old life. So maybe he is a bit afraid that someone who knew him in his old past, may actually do something or bring up his old things that he did in the past. So yes, maybe he is afraid lah, but it's not exactly mentioned whether he's afraid or not. He just hopes that the past might not catch up with him. That's all. Okay, so this is maybe a trap word. Is he ambitious about being financially successful? I don't think so, because there's nothing here that talks about him wanting to be successful in his life, be financially successful. So nothing here. So let's look at the options now. Is he deeply in love? Is he a changed man? Yes. Okay. Is he afraid that the past might catch up with him? Maybe. Okay, so there's another option here. Okay, is he ambitious about being financially successful? Not really. So you have these two options here, which are probably not the answer. So you're left with either deeply in love changed man or with this answer. So you're not sure now. Now you have to check the keyword here. Is he really afraid or not? If it's not, then the answer is A. If he's afraid, then the answer is B. So looking back over here, it says here, let's look at this part. After I get married, I'm going to the West, where I'll never see anyone who knew me in my old life. Okay, in this part of the text here, there's nothing that says that I'm actually afraid somebody's going to see me. Okay, I'm going to go to West to hide. Alright, so that, because I fear that someone knew me in my old life will do something to me. Okay, so there's nothing much about there. So if that's the case, then the best answer would be A. Okay, if the text says that, I fear that, the past may catch up with him or something like that, then you choose B. But since there's nothing here about the past, so the best answer would be actually A. Alright, not so easy, but what you can see here is that we have taken each of these statements one by one to check with each of the answers, and this is actually the method for you. One by one you go through so that you do not miss out on anything, and you underline the proof that is there. Alright, so okay, these are the tips that I've given to you earlier. Alright, so to continue, I just want to just share with you before we look at some sample questions from the MUET paper. So what are the type of questions that will actually appear that actually test you on your comprehension? So these are a few questions that I just want to highlight to you so that you know and have an idea what the MUET paper likes to test you about. So usually they will ask you, of course, true, false, or not stated question. For example, Jimmy wrote the letter in a hurry. Is that true, false, or not stated? So here you don't know whether he wrote it in a hurry or not. So the answer will be not stated. Okay, another kind of question that they like to ask you is always about the main idea of something. Okay, like for example, what is the main idea of paragraph 3? These are some questions that are taken from past year paper. This is a November 2019 paper, and this is only from text 6. We will look at all the questions that are taken only from text 6. I will not let you read the text itself. Later on, we will attempt text 1 and text 2 of the November 2019 paper. I just want to show you an example lah. In just one text itself, these are the questions that appear. So question 38 is asking what is the main idea of paragraph 1. Question 41 asks about what is the main point of paragraph 4. So again, you see both of these are asking about main ideas, and this is only from text 6 in the November 2019 paper. And then sometimes they will like to ask you about supporting details as well. For example, if in my example I gave you earlier, which of the following does not describe? So they will ask you questions like does not describe. They ask you for the supporting details, does not describe the feelings. All right. Which of the following is true? These are all asking you for supporting details. So in that question just now, in paragraph 6, the writer proposes what? Asking you to come up with supporting details. And then they also like to ask you on vocabulary. For example, the phrase crooked thing can be replaced by what? So in the sample, in text 6, in the past year question, acute can be replaced by smooth the transition means. This is only from the same text, they ask you these two kinds of questions really on vocabulary. And then they like to ask you inferencing questions as well. You couldn't buy them for $1,000 implies that, and this from this passage we can infer that. They'll ask you, okay, what can you infer? Okay, sample here. All right, the question of how to equip blah blah blah. This implies that. Okay, this shows that. Okay, they like to ask you these kind of questions. All right, referencing. What do you think this thing refers to? So the question is always about some kind of question refers to what? That impact refers to. Okay? Alright. Sometimes they will ask you writer's attitude as well. Okay. Before we look at that, you see, just from that text 6 in the MUET question, you already have all these questions. And usually it's repetitive throughout all the different texts. So you'll be ready. These are the kinds of questions they will ask you. And then writer's attitude. This is also another popular question. Okay. Is used by the writer to emphasize what? So they want to ask you, what does the writer actually mean by saying this? So does he mean it as a joke or an irony or an opinion? Go and find out the meanings of these words because they may appear again in the MUET question. Alright, again, writer's attitude. What is the writer's attitude? Is it critical? Is it objective, indifferent, sympathetic? Alright, these are all some of the famous words that they like to ask you. There may be other many words as well. For example, sympathetic means he feels that he sympathize with the situation. Indifferent, that means he has no difference whatsoever, whether he supports or he opposes. Objective, that means he's just thinking, thinking in a rational way. Critical, that means he feels that, maybe something is wrong. He wants to criticize on it. Find out what are the meanings of each of these things because you need to know exactly if it comes out in the exam. And look at some past year questions which may have other questions on writer's attitude as well. And then understand what are the terms of these questions because these are also one of their famous questions that they like to ask on the attitudes of writers. And also they also like to ask on how the passage is organized. For example, is it through narration or is it through description or is it through explanation? Narration would be in order, it's talking about something, then after that it talks about something else and talks about something else. It goes in order. Description would be describing something, a phenomenon. This is happening, this is happening, this is happening. All right. Whereas explanation goes a bit deeper than description. Explanation talks about why something is happening. Description is just to describe the thing that is happening. So this is the difference between the two. All right. Sometimes they will ask you, they give other options as well. Listing is just listing everything one by one. First this, second this, third this. Slightly different from narration. Narration is more like a story. Listing is just putting out one by one. First, next. Okay. First, next. Okay. All right. Comparison is comparing two different things. This one and that one. All right. Cause and effect. Would be saying that this happened and therefore this was the result of it. And then definition would be to give you, to define something, and then elaboration. So understand what all these terms mean, because they may ask you again in the exam. So as you read, you look at all these one by one, and then you check the text. Does it actually ask you the same way that the answers want? Then you match. Okay? And then sometimes they also like to ask you, what is the aim of the article? Is it to inform, or is it to advise you? Inform is giving you some information. To advise you on something. Do you find that you learn something in order for you to do something later on, that is an advice? Or to warn you against something? Is it some kind of warning? Don't do this, don't do that. Look for the keywords inside the text so that it can give you the idea which one it is about. All right. And then this is an example of a question. The phrase "let alone." Is it to demonstrate? Is it to compare? Is it to illustrate? Is it to emphasize? Demonstrate is to show you something. All right. To comparison is to compare. And just now I told you to compare this and that. Illustration is it's a bit like demonstration, but illustration is actually to give you an idea or a picture of something. Demonstration is to show you the steps. All right. To emphasize is to emphasize on something, why this something is important. Okay, so sometimes they like to ask you questions on aim. All right, and final tip, what happens if you cannot decide on the answer? So like what I mentioned and shared to you earlier, you use this thing called the wrong answer method. Between the two options that you have in front of you, you choose the most wrong looking answer first. All right, and that is the wrong one, because it's always easier for us to point out something that is wrong than to point out something that is right, isn't it? It's always easier to find mistake with your friends than to find what is good with your friends. It's always like that, the human eye. So when you have two different answers that you're not sure of, I know all of us, we always like to choose which is the best answer, right? Or this one is better, or this one is better. No, change your mind. Tell yourself, okay, which one looks more wrong? Which one looks more funny and weird? Okay, so I think this one looks more funny and weird. Although maybe the other option looks also not so correct to you, you're also not sure, but because this one looks more wrong, so I think this is also the answer lah. So you choose the answer that is left. Okay, so which one looks more wrong? Not which one looks more right and you choose the right one, because both are going to look right to you. And the answer that looks more right to you may actually be the wrong answer, because they have put a keyword to trap you over there. So you choose which one looks more wrong first, then the one that is left is the answer. Okay? All right. This method actually applies to other subjects as well, to your science subjects and maybe maths and all that, because this is a backed up research which has been done by other people to compare two groups of people who are working on this, and they found out that the group which used this wrong answer method actually were able to get more correct answers compared to the group that uses the best answer method, the choose the best answer kind of method. So I'm not sharing with you any rubbish tips or whatever. This is based on my own experience and also from research journals that I have read before. So you try this and see, maybe it'll be able to help you to answer and get more correct answers. Okay? All right. All right. Let us now attempt a text, and this is taken from the November 2019 paper. We'll be looking at text 1, which is about the true, false, not stated questions. And this section is actually one of the most difficult, which I think a lot of students find it difficult to answer. Okay, what I will do is I will go through this text with you, and I think some of you or most of you, you already have this question, which is already given by your teacher, and I hope that you've already gone through it. But if you haven't, don't worry, I will go through it with you and to be able to tackle the questions together. I will show you where the traps are and what are some of the words that you need to watch out for as you answer the question. Okay, based on my tips that I have given to you, one of it was to ask you to read through and scan through the question before we start, isn't it? Okay, so let us go through the questions first. The aim of looking the question is not for you to understand the question actually. The aim is for you to identify what the text is about before you actually answer. And maybe there are some words that may jump out to you which you think, okay, this may be asked later in the question when you see it again. So you don't have to worry about understanding the question. Okay, let's look at this together. Just scan through very quickly. Okay, the malaria parasites here. Then remember, you're supposed to underline the question, isn't it? Okay, the malaria parasite. Okay, so you know something about malaria. Probably the text is something about malaria. Multiply in the human host liver. Okay, right. Incubation period for the malaria depends on the health. Even if you don't understand the question later, the word, it doesn't matter because it may be explained in the text. So just go through very quickly. Don't worry about it. Malaria and flu, okay, share same symptoms. Eradication of malaria, okay, requires the use of drugs. And then anti-malarial drugs and insecticides becoming increasingly effective in controlling malaria. Pregnant women, okay, higher risk of dying, okay, than the children. And then travelers to 97 countries will become ill. Okay, all right. Maybe we don't really remember what we have read. It doesn't matter actually. From here, by scanning through the questions, you know that, okay, this is something about malaria lah. All right. Now let's go to the text already. Okay. And when you read the text, you don't have to worry about understanding what you read actually. What you need to do is, as you read, maybe you underline a few keywords, maybe one or two keywords that may tell you something about that whole paragraph. Your keyword will probably be different from your friend's keyword because we're all different people. Your keyword is definitely going to be different from mine, but it's okay. You just underline what you think is important to you and what you can understand from it. That's all. Alright, so as I'm reading this text here, I'll be underlining some words which of what helps me to understand. And if let's say your keyword is different from mine, don't worry about it. Okay? Alright, so now let's read together. Okay, Malaysia is once again on high alert for malaria due to increase in the number of cases and detection of a new malaria parasite in 3 villages in Kuching, Sarawak. The newly discovered malaria parasite is called Plasmodium knowlesi, which is transmitted from infected monkeys to Anopheles mosquitoes, which is then passed down to humans. Okay, so from here I know that something about malaria and it's from monkeys and it's given to humans. That's all. If you don't actually understand what you read, don't worry, like I told you. You only need it you only need to understand it if the question asks you later. So if let's say you don't even understand the whole paragraph, actually it doesn't matter until the questions ask you. Alright, so don't panic. This is the first thing you need to remember. Don't panic. Okay, so from here I know that this is something about malaria and passing down from monkeys to humans. Okay, next. When bitten by an infected mosquito, the parasites are released into the bloodstream. Okay, I think this word is important to me. Release into the bloodstream. Okay, this is my word. It's important to me, but it may not be important to you. Doesn't matter. The parasites travel through the blood to the liver, where they mature. Okay, I think I read something about liver earlier. I'm just going to underline liver. Alright. They then re-enter the bloodstream and begin to infect the red blood cells, causing the typical symptoms of malaria. Depending on the species a person has been infected with, the time from the initial mosquito bite until symptoms appear can range from 7 days to a month. Okay, so first we are bitten, and then later on the symptoms may appear later from 7 days to about a month. This is the incubation period. Okay, the severity of the symptoms also depends on the species as well as the individual's general health. The flu-like symptoms of malaria sometimes make it difficult to detect. Okay, all right, that's all. I think this whole passage is basically, this whole paragraph is basically telling me about how the malaria causes us to be sick. So we get bitten, and then after that, later on, there's this incubation period, and then we become sick lah. Alright, doesn't matter if you don't understand, doesn't matter. Like I told you, you just need to go through later on in detail when you read the text. Okay, delay in diagnosis and treatment is the leading cause of death in malaria patients. Okay, something about delay in diagnosis. Sometimes in order for you to find out what is the main idea of the text, it's best to look at the first sentence because the first sentence acts as like a topic sentence. It will tell you that this is the main idea of the whole paragraph. So sometimes just by underlining the first paragraph, the first line of the paragraph is already enough. Okay, then fortunately, malaria is treatable and preventable, and increased efforts globally are dramatically reducing the malaria burden in many places. Okay, a full course of life-saving malaria treatment costs just USD 1 and cures a child in 1 to 3 days. Okay, Alright. Okay, first it says here is treatable and it's only USD 1 ringgit. Okay, malaria may become a medical emergency without prompt. It may become an emergency without prompt. Prompt means very fast. Without fast and appropriate treatment, as the biggest challenges are related to growing drug. So it's saying here that we have a huge challenge actually because of this insecticide and drug resistance. That means this malaria, right, they are becoming more and more numb to the treatments available. It's becoming stronger. Even though we give them the drug to kill it, it cannot be killed. Sounds scary, isn't it? Okay, World Health Organization officials reported that mosquito resistance to insecticides and malaria have been an increasing concern. So they are concerned about it. Okay, a silver lining was when WHO recently announced that the world's first malaria vaccine will be rolled out through pilot projects in 3 sub-Saharan African countries soon. Okay, they're going to do some kind of vaccine. If the vaccine trial were a success, the drug would widely be distributed across the globe. Right. The control and eradication of malaria demands a multifaceted approach. As WHO initiatives reach more communities and people at risk for malaria, many more lives will be saved. Okay. All right. So, I forgot. So earlier in this paragraph here is talking about something about diagnosis and treatment. So this is my main idea for this. And then here, the main idea for here is that it's talking something about vaccine. This is the main idea for this. Okay, that's all. So what you need to know is you just need to find out what's the main idea for each of the paragraphs. Alright, this one is about malaria. This is something about how. This is something about diagnosis and treatment. And this is something about the vaccine. So basically, you know that this whole paragraph, this whole text is talking about malaria and how they're trying to treat malaria through vaccines. That's all you need to know. Whatever other details that are inside there, right, is actually not important really unless the question asks you. Alright, so you need to go through it fast and then underline just 1 or 2 words to be able to help you to understand what the whole passage is about, and that's it. And then now we look, okay, there's also a figure here, which you don't even have to look at it if, let's say, the question doesn't ask you. So you'll come back to this later. Now let's look at the question. Okay, this is the important part which you need to spend a lot of time on. The questions actually, not the text. So that's why I asked you, just skim and scan through the text quickly, and then just underline 1 or 2 keywords, and then focus more on the questions. So let's look at the first question. The malaria parasites multiply in the human host liver. Okay, so the keyword here is malaria parasites, and then you have here multiply in the liver. So you have multiply, and then you have liver. So if you remember my tips to you earlier, I asked you to look for the idea that is related to the question, isn't it? So the idea here is that it multiplies in the liver. So let's go back to the text. Okay, so you want to look for the idea of liver and multiply. You look at the first paragraph. Okay, there's nothing much about multiplying and liver. Then you come to the second paragraph. Okay, I find the word here, liver. All right. And then what does it say here? The parasites are released into the bloodstream. The parasites travel through blood to the liver where they mature. Okay, all right, there's a word mature here. Anything about multiplying or not? They then re-enter the bloodstream and begin to infect the red blood cells, causing typical symptoms of malaria. Okay, after they mature in the liver, then they re-enter the bloodstream. It doesn't say anything about multiplying. All right, do they multiply or not? We're not sure. Okay, so if that's the case here, what answer do you choose? You cannot say true because the text doesn't say they multiply. So you're between false and not stated. Which one is the more suitable answer? Okay, if you choose false, you're saying that the text says it doesn't multiply. You see, if you want to choose false, right, this has to be a direct contradiction. Of what the text is saying, you know. So the text has to say the parasites do not multiply. Then here it says the parasites multiply. Okay. If the text says do not multiply, then only you choose false. But if the text doesn't, so we go back to the text. Does it say do not multiply? It doesn't say anything about do not multiply. Okay. It just says they mature. So actually we do not know whether they multiply or not. Whether they do not multiply or whether they multiply. So actually, it is not there at all. Then if that's the case, then you choose not stated lah, because you can't find any direct contradiction at all. It has to be a direct contradiction, then only you can choose false. Otherwise, you choose not stated. Okay, now let's look at number 2. Says here, the incubation period. Okay, so this is the keyword, incubation period for malaria depends on the person's general health. Okay, so the incubation period depends on this person's health. Okay, so now let's look for the keyword. The keyword something to do with incubation and health. Okay, so incubation. So okay, this was the answer that you got for question 1. So you put number 1 over here. All right. So for question number 2, you know that they will not ask you for the idea which is up here. Usually they will arrange the questions based on the flow of the text. So question 1 will be somewhere at the top. Question 2 followed by question 3. Then the paragraph also, you go question 1, question 2, somewhere below. It cannot be above it. So you try to look for the keyword below it. If let's say you go further down to the bottom and you still cannot find, then you know that you're missing something already. For question number 2, it definitely cannot be down here in paragraph 4. It has to be somewhere further up. So that is another tip for you, another clue for you. Okay, so let's see here. Depending on the species, okay. So again, the keyword here is incubation. Okay, the time, okay. I found it here. Okay, this is the incubation period. Okay, so this is the word that I'm looking for. Incubation. Okay, what does the question say again? I've forgotten. Incubation period depends on the person's health. Okay, let's say you don't know what is the meaning of incubation. It doesn't matter. All right, but it says here incubation period. This refers to actually this one, 7 days to about a month. So incubation actually means the time that it takes for this malaria to develop. So when a person is infected with the malaria, it takes about 7 days to 1 month before the symptoms can appear. All right, and it says in the question, it says it depends on the person's health. So does it depend on the health? Oh, I found another keyword here, the word depend. So it depending on the species of this plasmodium, the time range from 7 days to a month, and this is the incubation period. Okay, so this 7 days to a month is dependent on the species of this plasmodium knowlesi. So actually it is not depending on the person's health, it depends on the species. Okay, so there is something that is contradicting already, isn't it? So this is for question number 2, the answer I found here. Okay. Whereas the sentence says it depends on the person's health, but in the text it says it depends on the species. So there is a direct contradiction, totally the opposite. So if that's the case, I choose false. Alright, so you can see here now the difference between not stated and false. This is very tricky part. Okay, now let's look at the next question. Malaria and flu share the same symptoms. So malaria and flu have the same symptoms. Yes or no? Let's have a look at the text again. Okay, so just now we found the answer for number 2 over here already. So we continue from down here. Severity of the symptoms. The severity of the symptoms also depends on the species, okay, as well as the individual's general health. Okay, the flu-like symptoms of malaria sometimes make it difficult to detect. Okay, I'm not sure yet. Let's see. Anything here? This is about delay in diagnosis already. Okay. So the keyword is actually over here, flu-like symptoms. You have the same one from the question. So it's probably over here. So does malaria and flu have the same symptoms? It says here, flu-like symptoms. Flu-like symptoms. That means here it's saying that the symptoms are also like the flu lah. Right? Flu-like means like flu. So probably. Alright. So it is exactly, it matches. It says flu-like symptoms of malaria. So yes, they share the same symptoms. It says flu-like, like the flu. So the answer here is true. Okay. So to find out whether it's true or not, it has to be matching. Alright, maybe they use the same words. They usually will use different words. For example, in the text says there, flu-like symptoms. Alright, but flu-like is the same as same, sharing the same symptoms. So in that case, this is true. So it matches, you choose true. Okay, alright. Eradication of malaria requires the use of drugs. Sometimes they want to test you, on vocabulary words. So the word eradication here comes from the word eradicate, which means to take away. Alright, so here eradication means to take away this malaria, you need to use drugs. Okay, let's find now. Okay, earlier you already found the answer for number 3 over here. So you know that they definitely will not ask you you cannot find the answer anymore over here lah. Definitely it has to be in the next paragraph. So you go to the next paragraph. Delay in diagnosis and treatment is the leading cause of death in malaria patients. Okay, something about diagnosis and treatment. The question says using drugs, right? So fortunately, malaria is treatable and preventable, and increased efforts are dramatically reducing malaria burden in many places. Okay, full cost of life-saving malaria treatment costs US $180 and cures a child. Okay, that means actually there must be some kind of treatment. Then only people will be able to get well. If there is no treatment, they won't be able to get well. Let's look at the question again. So, how do they get well? It says here, to use drugs. Do they use drugs in order to get well? Is it stated there? Okay, it doesn't say here. It says here the treatment costs USD and cures a child, and it may become a medical emergency without the prompt and appropriate treatment. Okay, still doesn't say as related to growing drug and insecticide resistance. Okay, so it's saying that it is difficult to treat, especially if the malaria is becoming immune to the drug that we put it. So over here, indirectly, it says here, World Health Organization reported mosquito resistance to insecticide and anti-malarial drugs. So indirectly, it is saying here that actually, in order for people to get well from malaria, you need drugs actually. This whole paragraph, in fact, is telling you about treatment, but it doesn't directly tell you that the treatment comes from the drug. But from here, you know, if let's say there is no drug, the malaria cannot die. And this paragraph actually tells you about the problem actually. Actually, it's telling you about the problem of malaria that is becoming difficult to treat because the malaria is having resistance to the insecticides and the drug. So indirectly, it's also telling you that it will only die if you use drugs. It will only be cured if you use drugs. So coming back to the question again, so if you want to eradicate this malaria, you need to use the drugs lah. It says what? If you don't use drugs or if the malaria is immune to the drugs, then there's no way and it's a concern. So the answer here would be true. Okay, it's not directly there, but it actually is there. Alright, not easy, huh? Okay, anti-malarial drugs and insecticides are becoming increasingly effective. So it's saying that it is becoming increasingly effective to control malaria. Earlier this one we read something in that same paragraph also, isn't it? Is it becoming more and more effective? It says here, officials reported. So this one just now, this drugs one is for number 4. Okay. They report that mosquito resistance to insecticides is saying that the mosquito resistance to the insecticides means the racun lah, the racun serangga, okay, and the drugs have become an increasing concern. Okay, that means the mosquito is getting more and more resistant to the insecticide and the drugs, and this is a concern. Increasing, you see they use the word increasing. Sometimes they like to use the same word to confuse you, but you don't have to be confused. So over here it says it is becoming more and more effective. Is it actually more and more effective? In the text it says here, increasing concern. Increasing concern. Okay, and also in the text earlier, you remember or not, the word resistance. So it is becoming more and more resistant to these drugs and the insecticide. Whereas here, it says here, it is becoming more and more effective. Again, it is a direct contradiction to what the text says. The text says being resistant and is a concern, but here it says becoming more effective. If it's effective, of course, it's not a concern anymore. So, since this is direct opposite, so I will choose the answer as false. Okay, it's directly opposite to what the text says. Okay, next one. Pregnant women are at higher risk of dying from malaria than the children in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, they're at higher risk of dying. Are they at higher risk or not? So here you have pregnant women. Okay, high risk. Okay, and then here the text says higher risk than the children in sub-Saharan Africa. Let's look again. Children from sub-Saharan. Okay, so must be this part here of the text, also Africa, although it doesn't say sub-Saharan. Does it say that they are at a higher risk? Higher. See, the question says higher risk. Higher, that means more than the children in Africa. Oops. Is it? Anywhere? High risk. It doesn't say more than them, isn't it? You don't know what. It also doesn't say less than them. So you're not actually sure here. It's not displayed over here. So if that's the case, we choose not stated lah. Some of you will be wondering, teacher, why not we choose false? We can't choose false because false has to be a direct opposite of what is stated there. You can choose false if it says, let's say it says here, pregnant women are not at a high risk. Or it says here, many children die in every 60 seconds, whereas here a child dies. Here a child dies, let's say the question says many children die in 60 seconds. So there's a direct contradiction. Or if the text says there's a low risk, then only you choose false. Otherwise, you choose not stated. Okay, because it doesn't say more than or less than or whatever, you don't know. Then you choose not stated. Okay, and the last question for this text. In 2014, travelers in 97 countries will become ill with malaria. Okay, so travelers from 97 countries became ill in 2014. So only in 2014, let's see, travelers. Okay, you have 97 countries. Okay, the word 97 is here. Okay, but there's nothing about travelers. Okay, the question says travelers to 97 countries. Let's go back. Okay, travelers. Each year, 10,000 travelers. Okay, you have the keyword here, travelers, are reported to become ill after returning home. Okay, this part of the text and this part of the text are separate. They are not related to each other. This one is about 97 countries. They have ongoing malaria transmissions in 2014. Okay, yeah, so you have 97 countries. And then here it says each year, travelers, they have malaria after returning home. Does it say the travelers to the 97 countries? No, it doesn't say. The travelers who go to 97 countries, you see, we go back to the text. The travelers to 97 countries, they become ill. Whereas in the text, the travelers to any country, not only to 97. Alright. And then here, it says each year, not only in 2014. So each year, all these travelers, they will become ill in don't know how many countries. It could be many more countries, it could be less countries. So actually, this sentence is a direct contradiction. Alright, you see in 2014, it's not 2014, it's each year. In the text, it says each year. Okay, travelers to 97 countries, it could be more, it could be less. Alright, it's just that inside the text, 97 here is 2014, ongoing malaria. But each year, you don't know how many countries. Okay, alright. So you see, there's already a direct contradiction already. This sentence and what is inside the text are different things. Because they're totally different, then you choose false. Okay, alright. So this is only for text 1. I hope that you are not too exhausted yet. All right, you've only gone through one text. Imagine in the exam you have actually 6 texts to go through. But if you follow, the same kind of techniques that I told you in order for you to tackle this true, false, not stated question, actually you'll be able to find out what are the traps there. So just remember these 3 things. True means, for example, true means you can find exactly same thing that is mentioned in the text. All right, or maybe the same idea. It must be matching. Then the answer would be true. Okay, if it is false, then there is a direct contradiction. The text, this sentence says something, the text says something else, which is the opposite of each other. If it helps you, then maybe it's good if you can write down what is it that is the opposite from the text. All right, the text says what, opposite is what, then you write down, then you are able to prove already that this is false. All right, and then if it's not stated, then it is totally not there in the text. You are not sure, you don't know. Like for example here, you're not sure this pregnant woman, is it more or less? It's not really stated there. All right, okay, like you see here, false, exactly the opposite there. And then here again, for number 1, not stated. Why? It doesn't say whether it multiply or not. All right, so this is how we tackle the true, false, not stated question. I hope that you'll be able to use these tips and get more correct answers next time. So try this out with other questions and hopefully you get more correct lah. All right, okay, so now we will move on to text 2. The reason why I want to go through text 2 with you is because you have other questions which are not related to true, false, which I want to highlight some of the tips with you. And again, coming back to my favorite tip. All right, the first thing you need to do is always to read through the questions first. So come, let's read through the questions. It says here, young people are checking their phones. So okay, the text is something about phones. Okay, more often today compared to 10 years ago, something about phones lah. Okay, people who carry phones do not wear watches. Okay, something about phones and watches. Fubbing, what's fubbing? Okay, never mind. This one doesn't matter. This question later on we'll know when we go to the question. From this study, Dr. Roberts found what? What did he find? Okay, when it comes to this kind of questions, with all these words, right? Then it's important for you to underline the keywords that are inside the options. And you need to go through one by one, each of these keywords inside the option, because they will determine what the answers are for you, the exact answers. And usually in the exam, they like to trap you with just 1 or 2 answers. They will, or 1 or 2 keywords, they will twist the keyword to make it wrong. So just go through. But don't worry, this one now you're just scanning through very quickly. So women experience, okay, more technoference, okay, 30% men. Just go through very quickly only. Phone interference, okay, she suggests. Okay, lay down rules. You don't have to actually go through also late, because this is just scanning. Something to connect to your partner, which is following is true. Okay, all right. Okay, so now you know the text is something about phone, right? Something about fubbing or something. Okay, all right. Now let's begin on the text. Okay, it says here, we have an intimate relationship with our phones. Okay, wow. We eat them, carry them in our pockets, and sleep with them. Okay, we check them on average 47 times a day, 82 times if you're between 18 and 24 years old, according to the data in 2017. Okay, all right. So this first paragraph is something about phones, all right, and some kind of intimate relationship with our phones lah. Okay, so I'm just going to circle this word here to tell me what this first paragraph about. We have a close relationship with our phones. Okay, next one. We love them for good reasons. They tell us the weather, the time of the day, the steps we have taken. Find us dates, entertain us, okay? Connect us to family and friends. They answer our questions and quell feelings of loneliness and anxiety. Okay, so this is something about reasons why we love our phones. Okay, right. But phone love can go too far. Okay, something about going too far. So far that it can interfere with old-fashioned face-to-face intimacy with your partner, spouse, or significant other. Okay, it can interfere already. My intimacy with people. Intimacy, that means the closeness you have with people. Alright, the conflict between phone love and human love is so common, it has its own lexicon. Okay, don't worry if you don't understand any words. It doesn't matter until you need to meet them in the question. Otherwise, just ignore. Don't worry. If you're snubbing your partner in favor of your phone, it's called fubbing. Okay, when one partner constantly checks your phone. Just now, remember we saw the word fubbing, right? Oh, what is it? Don't worry. Later, we will get to it when the question asks us. When one partner constantly checks your phone, it sends an implicit message that they find the phone more interesting than you. If you're snubbing a person in favor, okay, maybe you don't know the meaning of the word snubbing, is okay, doesn't matter also. Later, we will find out if the question asks you. It's called technoference. A popular song by Lost King asks, why don't you put the phone down? Okay, so this passage is basically telling us about how the phone interferes with our life. All right, next one. In a study published in the Journal of Psychology of Popular Media Culture, 70% of women revealed that smartphones were negatively affecting their primary relationship. Okay, something about affecting their relationship. Okay, more than 1/3 of 143 women in this study said that their partner responded to notifications mid-conversation. So while talking, their partner actually looked at the phone. Okay, and they reported high levels of technoference in interactions with their partner, were less happy with their relationship. Okay, so they are not happy lah. Okay, because it's affecting their relationship. Okay, I think the idea here is mainly about affecting their relationship. That's all. Okay, maybe they are just less happy. Okay. All right, next. It's not just women who are feeling dissatisfied, Dr. James Roberts said. In the study, Dr. Roberts, who is a professor of marketing at Baylor University, asked 175 men and women questions about their partner's smartphone use. Nearly half of the respondents reported being phone snubbed or fubbed by their partner. People who reported higher levels of fubbing also reported higher levels of relationship conflict. In our quest to be connected through technology, we are tuning out our partner. Okay, never mind. I think I read a bit fast. Maybe you didn't understand what I was talking about. It doesn't matter again. We will look at the questions and come back to it later. That's what is most important. You just basically need to get an idea of what the paragraph is about. So earlier I told you that you probably get it through the first line of the sentence, isn't it? Where the topic sentence is. So here the topic sentence is something about feeling dissatisfied. Okay, not just the women lah. Okay, maybe the men also. Okay, never mind, doesn't matter. Okay, if you're feeling frustrated by phone interference in a relationship, talk to your partner but be positive. Okay, this is asking you to talk to partner already. Okay, emphasize the benefits of being more connected. All right, this person, rather than dictate to your partner what he or she should or should not do, try an approach such as, I love talking to you, but when you're constantly checking. Okay, this is how to talk to the partner. Okay, the first step is awareness. Okay, Dr. Roberts says something about being aware. Okay, all right, that's all. Okay, now let's look at paragraph 7. Dr. Roberts offers some practical suggestions. Okay, maybe some suggestions. So maybe this whole paragraph is talking about some suggestions to break up in your phone long enough to connect with your partner. This includes designating no phone zones in your home. The most difficult to do, but perhaps the most useful, is to keep phones off the table when you're eating at home or in a restaurant. Okay, people inadvertently compare phones. The mere presence of a phone with the possibility of it buzzing at any moment can inhibit the free flow of conversation, according to Dr. Roberts. Okay, all right, this is the last paragraph. Oh, one more. Okay, before that, so this is basically suggestions on how to break up with your phone. Okay, next one, practice phone etiquette. Okay, so maybe this first paragraph is talking about etiquette. You must look at your phone, announce that you're doing so, saying, I'm just checking for 2 minutes, show courtesy, you're aware and that your attention is shifting. In short, you should be more aware of how often you pick up your phone when your partner is present. Okay, all right, so this is about etiquette. I feel exhausted. Imagine, we're only at the second text and maybe you already feel exhausted with me already, just reading so long of it. But remember, I told you before already, if you don't want to feel exhausted, just go through the text very quickly and then underline the topic sentence or the main keyword that is related to the paragraph. For the rest, you don't actually have to understand or read in every detail. Just go through very quickly, but you don't have to read through in every detail because you only get to it if the question asks you. If the question doesn't ask you, then you don't have to worry so much about it. And usually the questions will ask you actually definitely inside. But then when the question asks you, then only you go through it slowly, word by word, bit by bit. Otherwise, don't waste your time trying to understand every single thing. Just go through very quickly. Okay, now let's look at the question. young people are checking their phones more often today compared to 10 years ago. So here it says here they're checking their phones more often today compared to 10 years ago. Is it more often today compared to 10 years ago? Now let's see. Okay, we have intimate relationship. We check them 47 times a day. Okay, 82 times. Okay, and then if you love them, okay, second paragraph doesn't say about checking. Only the first paragraph talks about checking them 47 times a day. Is it more often than 10 years ago? More often? Anywhere? Something about more often? Not really lah. So we don't know. Is it more often today or not? Actually, we don't know whether it's more often or not. If that's the case, then not stated lah. Alright. There's nothing about being more often. Right? It just says that they check them a lot, isn't it? But there's no comparison 10 years ago. And there is nothing contradicting also. Remember, if you want to choose the word false, it has to be contradicting. For example, let's say this question says, young people not checking their phones. Okay. Whereas in the text, it says, yes, they are checking their phones on an average 47 times a day. Or maybe here it says here 47 times a day, 82 times if you're between 18 and 24 years old. So maybe the question says, young people are checking their phones less than double, or maybe double the times. Okay, double. In the text, it's not exactly double. It is around double. 47, around double if you're a young person. So actually, it is a direct contradiction. If the question says double, but here is around double, then only you choose false. Okay, you don't choose false if there's nothing mentioned over there. So it is, answer is not stated lah. Okay, next one. People who carry phones around do not wear watches. Alright, is it they don't wear watches if you carry the phone? Okay, so just now the question for number 1 is up here. So, oops, sorry. So this is for number 1. So now the answer for number 2 will be somewhere down here already lah, below this one. We love them for good reasons. They tell us the weather, the time of the day, something about time, right? Watches is the time of the day, so tell us the time of the day. Steps we have taken, they find us dates, entertainers. Okay, down here, anything about wearing? Okay, we don't know actually. Okay, yes, we have the phone to help us to tell us the time of the day. But then in the text, in the question, it says here, they don't wear watches. But there's nowhere in the text that says that they don't wear watches. Maybe they wear watch and they also carry the phone. You're not sure actually. It doesn't exactly, and it doesn't say also that they wear also or whatever. So because of that, you choose not stated. Okay, if let's say this sentence says people who carry phones always look at their phones for time. Or not always, like if always also you're not sure, you have to put not stated. But if this sentence says people who carry phones look at it for time, then maybe you can say true, because yes, they look at it to find out the time of the day. They may tell you the time of the day. Okay, or they say people who carry phones may look at it to find out the time of the day. But if it says here, people who carry phones do not definitely do not look at it for the time. If it says definitely do not look at it for the time, then you choose false, because in the text says that they may look at it for the time. Okay, so there must be a direct contradiction. Okay, let me just write here lah. If let's say it says here, people may look at it to tell the time. Okay, people who carry phones may look at it to tell the time. If that's the case, then you choose true. Oops. Okay, if let's say it says here, people who carry phones definitely or maybe always look at it to tell the time. Oops, sorry. Always look at it to tell the time. Then if that's the case here, this is definitely wrong already, because they don't always. The text says that they look at it, but not always what. Okay, then you can choose false. Alright, because it's a general thing, not definite, not always. Okay, although actually you can choose not stated for this lah, for this question. If let's say the question says, because it says here, they tell the weather, they tell the time of the day, they tell the steps that they have taken, so they love it because the phone has all these reasons. But then the text doesn't say people look at it all the time. So it is false lah. It is a false statement because it is not always or definite. But if let's say the question says here may look at it, then maybe you can choose true. Okay, all right. So remember, keywords actually may trap us. Okay, next for number 10. Fubbing is a type of technoference. Okay, now we have to find out whether we like it or not. We have to find out what fubbing is, because the question asks us. So is it a technoference or not? Okay, so earlier the question for this is up here. So for this, it's probably down here already. For number 3, so phone love can go too far. It can interfere with all face-to-face. Okay, all right. Then you want to find the word fubbing. Okay, it's down here. It's called fubbing. Okay, what is fubbing? If you're snubbing your partner in favor of your phone. If you're snubbing. Okay, well, let's say you don't know the meaning of snubbing. But if let's say, what happens when you're looking at your phone? We can guess, use the intelligent guess. All right, if let's say you don't know the meaning of the word. All right, so imagine you're talking with someone, and then suddenly your phone rings, and then you look at your phone. What are you doing actually? Okay, you're snubbing. You're snubbing, actually it can also mean you're ignoring You're ignoring your partner by looking at the phone. So you have the word phone and you have the word snubbing. So a combination of the word here, it says here, phone plus snubbing means fubbing. Okay, the question says it is a kind of technoference. So you need to find out again where the word technoference is. Okay, it says that when one partner constantly checks the phone, his or her phone, it sends an implicit message that they find the phone more interesting than you. Again, this part here gives you the clue of what fubbing means. All right, looking at the phone and telling you that the phone is more interesting than you. And then it says if you're snubbing a person, again the word snubbing in favor of any type of that, it's called technoference. So actually technoference is another word. You see, it's called here. It's called snubbing. You see, this sentence actually has the same meaning as what this sentence is talking about. You are snubbing a person in favor of the technology. That means you're ignoring this person to look at your technology. And then you see here again here. Okay, you keep checking your phone. Okay, because you're saying that it's more interesting than you. So this whole idea here is saying that that you prefer to look at the phone than to talk with the person. All right. So this is called fubbing. Okay, phone and snubbing, and then it is called technoference. So again, this whole thing, it is called, refer to this whole section here lah. This whole section here. Okay, this is also known as technoference. This whole thing here, this whole thing refers to technoference actually. Oops. So if you go back to the question, is it a type of technoference? Then the answer would be true. Wow, that's a lot of things to look at just for this word, technoference. Okay, but I hope you get what I mean here. All right. You see, this whole thing is talking about fubbing, snubbing. Even if you don't really understand, right? But you know that it is referring to I mean this whole thing lah, checking and all these things, it's just basically referring to this whole thing here. It is called technoference. This is referring to this whole thing here. Okay, all right, so it's true. Okay, next, from the study, Dr. Roberts found that women experience more technoference than men. Okay, in this question now you have to find out one by one really the keywords that are in here. Women experience more than men, and you have to check one by one. You cannot just go through all one shot and then look at the text. You have to check one by one, you know. It's not like last time SPM, you can just read all then you know the answer already. No, this one by one, each sentence you have to understand, each sentence you have to check. So we look at the first option first. Women experience more technoference than men. Yes or no? Is it more than men? Okay, we go back to here. Here you've already found the answer for number 3. So number 4 is definitely somewhere at the next part lah. Okay. Women, 70% women revealed that smartphones were negatively affecting their primary relationship. More than 1/3 said their partner responded to notifications. Women reporting high levels were less happy. Okay. Is it more than men? Does it say that they experience it more? Or down here, it's not just the women who are feeling dissatisfied. Okay, we don't know actually. It says that the women experience it, and down here it says that it's not just the women. All right. Okay, the men and women were questioned, but actually there's nowhere that says that it is more. Okay, and also don't forget, this is from the study. This is what Dr. Roberts found. Okay, so here there's nothing about women experiencing more than men. He didn't find that women experience, there's nothing about it. So he didn't find this. So you put an X here. All right. Let's look at the next one. 30% of men. So 30% of men said that their partner texted using smartphones. 30% texted using smartphones. So again, look at the question. Also from Dr. Roberts. Okay, Dr. Roberts one. Okay, it's not just women. This is his study again. Okay, for the study, Dr. Roberts. Oh, okay. I did a little mistake here. Just now, talking about the women more than men, right? Actually, you didn't have to look up here already. Because the question was about Dr. Roberts' study. So you can ignore this whole part. You want to find the study from Dr. Roberts. So Dr. Roberts said here, not just the women. Okay, 175 men and women were questioned. But nothing about being more. So nothing about being more lah. So just now we can cross that one. And the second question now, it says 30%, right? 30%. Let's look back at the question. 30% said their partners texted using smartphones. So nearly half of the respondents, 46%, reported being phone snubbed. All right. Anything about 30%? It says half here. Half. All right. Half. Half reported. Okay, let's go back to the question. 30% men texted using smartphones. Okay, you're not sure yet, Okay, never mind. We are still not sure. Let's look at the next question first. Anything or not? Okay, nothing. So we can safely say the answer is probably in this text. But never mind, you're not sure yet. Okay, it doesn't say anything about 30%. Maybe it's probably not the answer also lah. Okay, let's go to the last one. Frequent texting during conversations cause unhappy relationships. Okay, let's say this one you're not sure. Just let's say. Just want to point out something to you. Okay, frequent texting during conversations cause unhappy relationships. Okay, frequent, okay, conversation. Okay, does it make people unhappy? Okay, Okay, it says here, women are less happy. Oh, up here also, more than 1/3. More than 1/3 is talking about 30%, but this is talking about women. So nothing to do with men just now. Okay, so it says high levels of technoference, okay, makes people less happy. And then Dr. James Robert, okay, it says people who reported high levels of relationship conflict. Okay, so when there's conflict, people are less happy. So I think the answer is somewhere around here. People are not happy when other people are using handphone. So most likely, between the two answers, remember, if let's say both answers look almost the same to you, almost correct, use that technique. Choose the most wrong looking answer first. Compare the two. Because in the questions, right, usually they like to give you answers that look all correct. This is their trap. So if you try to choose the best answer, both will look like best answers and both will look correct to you also. So you cannot have that. What you need to do is you need to then change your mind and tell yourself which one looks more wrong. So you change your mindset, from which one looks more right, which will all look right, and then they will put the trap to make you believe that it is right when it's actually wrong. So instead of doing that, you tell them which one looks more wrong first, because it's easier for you to pick up the wrong mistake lah. Something that is wrong with someone. It's easier for you to always find mistakes with something than to find what is correct. So between these two here, it looks as if this one looks more wrong actually, because earlier in the text there's something about men 30%. It's not really there, whereas here it is mentioned more often about unhappy relationships, although the keyword is not there, frequent texting during conversations, and usually they will not put the keyword there, they'll just put the idea there. But between these two, this one looks more wrong actually compared to this one. So I'm going to go for this answer. Okay, all right, next. To deal with phone interference in relationships, Miss Judith Bell suggests. Okay, so now you have this word here, Miss Judith Bell suggests. So we look for her name. Okay, the first one is what? To lay down rules on phone usage. Okay, let's go back to here. Let's find her name. Okay, this is Miss Judith Bell. Okay, what does she suggest? Okay, earlier the question says to lay down the rules. Let's see. To lay down the rules. Okay, if you're feeling frustrated, talk to your partner but be positive. Emphasize the benefits. Okay, rather than dictate to your partner whether he should not do, try and approach. Okay, it says whether to dictate whether what he or she should not do. Rather, that means to dictate. That means instead of telling your partner what he or she should not do, this one, he or she should not do sounds like rules lah. But it says here rather than dictate, that means instead of telling them. So maybe it means here don't give the rules. Okay, never mind. Go back to the question. Okay, so maybe, probably not. She didn't suggest this. Don't lay down the rules. But maybe you're not sure yet. Never mind. Look at the next one. Develop an awareness of the phone interference problem. Okay, develop awareness. Is it something about developing awareness? Got awareness or not? Okay, there's nothing here about awareness, but then Dr. Roberts said that, not Judith Bell, this is Dr. Roberts. So maybe that's not the answer as well. And then the last one, stay positive when talking about frequent phone checking. We have the word here, positive, when talking about frequent phone checking. Okay, did she suggest that? Something about being positive when you check the phone often. Okay, you see over here, it says here, talk to your partner, but be positive. And then blah, blah, blah. You have the word positive here. Okay, so probably this is maybe the answer. Let's go back. Probably lah. Alright, because you see here, lay down rules. Earlier she said, rather than laying down the rules. So it's not. Develop an awareness. This was by Dr. Roberts. So positive was actually mentioned by her. So this is probably the answer. These other two looks more wrong. So this is for number 12. Okay. Final two more questions. Then I shall release you. Okay, according to Dr. Roberts, the most effective way to stay connected to your partner. Okay, again, back to Dr. Roberts. Effective way to stay connected to your partner. Effective, okay? Most effective way. Let's find which is the most effective way. Okay, so just now this one was for question number 12. Okay, now this is for question number 13. Okay, Roberts offers some practical suggestions to break up with your phone long enough to connect. Okay, some suggestions. Okay, he said no phone zones. All right. In your home and in your car. Okay, keep the phones off the table. Okay, wait, we forgot to look at the question earlier. Okay, keep the phone off the dining table. No phone zone. Don't use phone in the car. All also is mentioned what? Dining table, no phone zone, no phone in the car. Okay, no phone zone. Keep phone off the dining table. That means when you're eating. And then it says no phone in the car also, right? Got or not? No phone zones in your home and in your car. Oh, also correct what? Jang, jang, jang. Again, go back to the keywords of the questions. Don't panic. Okay, it says here most effective way. Okay, phone, dining table, no phone zone at home. Don't use phone in the car. Okay, most effective way. Okay, to stay connected. Let's see here. Okay, let's read out very in detail now. Okay, so to break up with your phone long enough to connect with your partner. All right, this includes designating no phone zones in your home and in your car. The most difficult to do, but perhaps the most useful. Oh, you have the word here, most. Just now the question has something about the most being the most, isn't it? Most effective. So most useful is to keep phones off the table when you're eating. Now, when you're eating, that means when you're eating and you're dining lah. Most useful. The keyword is the same here, most. Okay. So earlier it says, no phone. This is correct. This is correct. Okay. And then this is also correct. But you want the most one. And then just now in the text, you have the word the most. So this is probably the answer lah over here. Same one, most, is for when eating. So my answer is going to be A. Keeping the phone off the dining table. Okay. Alright, last one. Which one is true about phone etiquette? Okay. It's courteous to use the phone for less than 2 minutes. Okay, is it less than 2 minutes or not? Okay, I'm just going to read through all. We won't go one by one. Feeling very tired already. It's alright to frequently check the phone if you announce it. Important to develop awareness of our phone checking behavior. Okay, alright, let's go back here. Courteous to use the phone less than 2 minutes. You want to find out which one is true. Does it say or not it's courteous to use the phone for less than 2 minutes? Okay, so back to the word etiquette. Alright, because we have already done over here 14, so 15 should be around here already lah. Okay, practice phone etiquette. If you must look at your phone, announce that you're doing so. Saying, I'm just checking the phone for 2 minutes, shows courtesy. Okay, for 2 minutes, shows courtesy. Does it say it's courteous if you only use it for 2 minutes? This is actually an example to announce that you're using your phone. But an example that maybe you're using it for 2 minutes, but not necessarily you use it for 2 minutes. You just need to announce that you're using your phone and it shows courtesy. Alright? So it's not limited to only 2 minutes. So not true lah, probably. Okay? Courteous, less than 2 minutes or more. Yeah, probably not true. Okay, but let's say you're not sure, then you just put a question mark there. It's alright to frequently check the phone if you announce it. It's alright to check the phone if you announce it. Does it say it's alright? Does it say it's okay? Not really. It just says that, the phone etiquette is that you should announce it, but it doesn't mean that, you keep announcing and you could always still use it. Okay, maybe that's not the right answer. Finally, it's important to develop awareness of your phone checking behavior. It's important. Okay, look back at it's important. Okay, in short, you should be more aware of how often you pick up your phone. Should be more aware. So this last sentence says here that we should be aware at how often we pick up the phone. So here you should be, that means it is something that is probably important. Okay. So among these three options, I would say that the one that is probably the most true is that it is not to use it for less than 2 minutes. It just sounds a bit funny, this whole sentence. This one is alright to frequently check. It's actually not really alright. You just announce only what? Then it's courteous what? Not so alright. Alright? It's not really less. So this two actually looks more wrong to me. I would go with C. It is more important to develop awareness. So I think we have come to the end of text 1 and text 2, and that is all. We are not going to look at text 3, text 4, text 5, but I hope that you continue to attempt the other texts using the techniques that I have taught you, and I hope that you'll be able to get the correct answers from there. Your teachers have the answers. You can ask them from the teacher, and then you can check your answers, all right, to see whether you got it right or wrong. Okay, so just a final note here and some final tips for all of you. The questions are usually asked according to the order of the text. That means if let's say it's question 1, it will be somewhere at the top of the question. If it's question 2, then somewhere it's definitely below the answer for question 1. It will not be very, very far below. And if it's question 3, it will be below question 2. They will not ask question 3 before the the answer for question 3 will not appear before the answer for question 2, or the answer for question 4 will not be suddenly up there before the answer for question 2. So it will be according to the order of the text, except for maybe the question that asks about which of the following is true. If that's the case, maybe it's throughout the whole text. They will ask you which of these is true. Then in that case, the options, may appear in any part of the text. All right, can be the first paragraph, second paragraph, because they are asking maybe throughout the whole passage which of these are true. Otherwise, it will usually follow according to the order. All right, and also remember to use the wrong answer method if let's say you meet with answer options which you're not really sure if all of them look correct to you. Then try to choose which one looks more wrong to you, which one looks more funny or more weird. Then you choose the one that looks the least weird looking one. All right, even though you are not sure whether that's right or wrong, but because the other two looks more wrong, then you choose that one. Okay, so this method should be able to help you to identify the most correct answer among all the answers which all also look correct actually. Okay, and my final words for all of you here: read, read, and read. Read this is in order to help you to get used to the sentence structures, the kinds of words that they may ask you, and then to practice so that you'll be able to know what kind of traps they lay out. Actually, once you know the method, right, to be able to tackle the question, like earlier I already pointed out to you one by one already. Find out the keyword, find out the place where it is, find out the trap. Is it the same or not? If it doesn't match, it's probably not the answer. Actually, this is basically the technique in order for you to answer the question. So you don't have to actually worry too much about getting the answer right or wrong. As long as they match or they don't, you're confirmed to be sure that this is probably the answer already. All right. So, all right, I guess that's all for my presentation. Thank you for joining the session. I know it's been very long. Thank you for hanging in there, because it has not been easy, especially for reading, very dry, because you need to read through, you need to go through one by one. But I hope that you have gained something from this session lah. So continue to stay tuned for the next session, which will be presented by the other lecturers. All right, so take care and all the best for your MUET reading paper and also for your other papers soon. Okay, see you, take care and stay safe. And do remember, if you have any questions, you can ask in the live chat column or in the comment section below. Thank you.